use fear or it uses you. It's that simple.
You went to Harvard and you dropped out. Have you ever thought how your life could be better off if you had gotten your Harvard degree?
Well, I'm a weird dropout because I take college courses all the time. I love learning company courses and things, so I loved being a student. And there were smart people around, and you know, they fed you, and they gave you these nice grades that made you feel smart. So I feel it was unfortunate that I didn't get to stay there, but I don't think I missed any knowledge because, you know, whatever I needed to learn, I was still in a learning mode.
Play it cool. I'd say play it cool and learn as much as you can, because everything you learn you're gonna need. You won't have enough time to learn. Everything is an education.
You should learn something from each and every single round you play in. Every single round you should learn something. Whether it's one thing, it might be 20 things. Learn something from each and every round. And I've done that. Every round that I've played, I've come back home, I've critiqued my round, I've looked at it from the mental and mechanical side, what went wrong, what went right, and apply it to the next day.
Well, for one, I never quit. I never stopped skating, you know what I mean? So I never took a hiatus, say 5 years, and became like, oh, skating's hot now, I'm gonna get back into it. So I have that, you know, that consistency, but I think that for me, I really like learning new techniques. You know, and a lot of people, like, if they're skating, they stick with this one style of skating or this one, you know, set of tricks, and don't want to branch out because they're afraid they won't look cool doing it or whatever. I always wanted to try the different techniques, even if I stumble on them. I knew that in the end it would help me be more well-rounded, and I think that's probably what it is that I just, you know, I wanted to try to learn it all.
Learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking provides knowledge. Knowledge makes you great.
Did you have a sense that Coldplay had reached the stage where you didn't want it to be that band? Like you wanted something else?
No, we reached the stage where we thought we can't get much bigger, so we have to try and get better.
Yeah.
And it's that whole thing of quantity or quality. We felt, well, we need to practice a bit and improve and try and validate. You know, I was feeling bad because I'm sure there's some 16-year-olds or, you know, kids who say they like Coldplay and then took some abuse for it in the playground. Mm-hmm. And so I had a feeling about 18 months ago, I really would like to make them proud by you know, trying to improve.
I came up with a slogan, and I tell it to my kids all the time. I say, there's no losing, only learning. There's no failure, only opportunities. And there's no problems, only solutions. So to me, what failure is the mother of all success. If it wasn't for Michael Jordan getting cut from his 9th grade basketball team, he wouldn't have became Michael Jordan. You know, if it wasn't for, I seen an article the other day where they were talking about Oprah Winfrey and how she got fired because she wasn't good for television. You know, you got people like Walt Disney who got fired, if I'm not mistaken, from a newspaper saying he had no imagination. ¿Tú me entiendes lo que te estoy diciendo? These are the same people that I got to deal with. Tell me what's not a hit record. Right. So
what do you tell them? You tell them, you know?
You know that all they can do is learn and come back bigger, better, stronger, because all it's going to do is lead you in the right direction. See, if you're always winning, then you don't really understand what it is to win. You got to take those losses. You got to take those hits. There's got to be the valleys, the peaks, the ups, the downs. In order for you to, when it does happen, you go, wow, qué rico. You know, this is what it's all about. And not only that, it's never about making it, guys. It's always about maintaining it. That's the toughest part.
What one quality do you think you have that made you and gave you and allowed you, pushed you to achieve what you have?
I think my willingness to learn. I'm pretty relentless when it comes to that. You know, I certainly knew everything about growing up in the street and, you know, what it took to survive on the street corner of Dorchester. But this is a whole new world to me. So, you know, just being able to take advantage of the things that I've seen and, you know, the things that I've been exposed to now with my career has really been.
I continually learn from my mistakes and other people's mistakes. See, entrepreneurs think that, hey, to create that $1 billion company or $100 million company or even $1 million company, you have to be really smart. And sure, brains is part of it. Luck is a huge component. But what I've learned over the years is everyone, no matter how smart you are, you're going to fail many times and you're going to make mistakes. Just look at Mark Zuckerberg. Facebook worked out. His version of Snapchat, that was a copycat, did not work out, right? So there's other areas in which Facebook failed, but Facebook overall as a company has done great. Just because you're smart doesn't mean you're always going to succeed with everything you try or touch. But every time you do something, you will learn new things, you'll make mistakes, and if you learn from these mistakes and avoid making them over and over again, you'll actually increase your odds of succeeding as time goes on. And the best way to do this is not just to learn from your mistakes, but it's also to learn from the mistakes of others. Rockefeller, Carnegie, all these people who are entrepreneurs years ago in the 1800s, 1900s, they themselves use business principles and concepts that are still applicable in today's world. Sure, we have the internet, but the same strategies and concepts that they use are still applicable, right? So learn from their mistakes, learn what worked for them, what didn't work for them, why, and bring that into what you're doing today.
Whether it's a world champion boxer, a basketball player, a track star, a horse, even animals, I find out that this Mark Spitz, for an example, he's a world champion. But what made him the world champion was that he seemed to, at the right time when the pressure's down, at the last few yards, he can get that lead, or he's got enough left to make it. I fought Ken Norton, my last fight. The fight was even up until the last round, but I had something that he didn't have, although I'm much older, and that was the last-minute kick.
What's that last-minute kick? Is that something?
Just the stamina, the strength, the
mental, more than training.
The mental capacity, to realize what's involved and how important it is to make your body do something that's really too tired to do. Your mind makes you do it. Mark Spitz, this Olympic track star I was mentioning, he wasn't that much greater than all the people in the world, but sometimes he won by just that much. And the champion is just one who can come out at the last minute and close the show. As they say, the star closes the show. A 14, 15-round fight, and it's even, and usually this champion, you can depend on him to come through at the last few seconds and find some energy from somewhere.
Is it discipline? Or
not only that, it's mental and physical. His body's in physical shape to do it, plus mentally too. He's got himself in condition where both fellas may be, sometimes the will can outdo the skill. And sometimes a fella's will is stronger than the man who's actually better physically, and the determination and weakens the other man just to see him so determined.
Did you doubt yourself at any stage? Because it would be understandable if you did.
I never did, no. I think there was definitely times where, not in go-kart. In go-karts, it's fierce. No problems, no whatever. Just get out and do what I do. But I think there was a moment when I moved to cars. It was really hard. The first few laps was going really well, and then I spun off, I crashed, destroyed the back of the car. And I was petrified because I had to call Ron and tell him, and he's not an easy guy to, he's not, but he was really supportive, and he's like, no way, this happens. And then we did our first few races, disaster. And, there was one day, there's only one day really, that we got home one day and we sat in front of the garage in the car and we're talking, and it was like a real down moment. Like, maybe I'm not gonna be able to adapt to this, from karting to cars. And went in, had normal dinner, went to bed, woke up super early, went training. Next race I won. Just
so if I ever had a low moment, next day I just get up with this determination. I don't know where it come from, but I just dug deep, and somehow I just managed to find it. So.
I was reserved and I was shy and had it in me, but wasn't quite sure how to bring it out yet. I wanted people to hear me so bad and I wanted to do my shit, but it was like, you know, them jitters and them, I'm scared, I'm not scared. That whole struggle and everything, especially early on for me, which I loved being on stage and stuff like that. Once I got a mic, I was cool, but it was that prompted me to do it and get up there and not be scared to grab that and just rock. I feel like anybody can do anything they set their mind to. It depends on how bad you want it, and I wanted to do it. You know, at this stage of my life, I don't feel like there's too much that I can't do. I don't mean to sound cocky or nothing, but if I like really, really want to do it, I don't give up that easy.
As an aspiring entrepreneur, you know, I know that you've done a lot of things. I don't want to go along with your credentials.
Thank you.
We know that.
Thank you.
What do you do? You know, what did it take for you to build your empire?
Man, it took execution, time after time after time, you know what I'm saying? Proper execution in many different areas. And consistency. It took resilience. And you know, you just have to show up and show out so often.
Right on.
Time after time, you gotta wake up and you gotta drive. You gotta be driven to go get something done now, you know what I'm saying? And you I mean, for real, and it's a gamble sometimes. You gotta really, you gotta be forward thinking, ahead of the curve when it comes time to make certain decisions. And you gotta be willing to stand on your beliefs. Because a lot of times you're the only one who can see it. You did? And other people, they don't see it really, but you gotta really believe in what you got inside of you that's telling you and driving you to a certain goal for something.
I can dig.
Yeah.
Determination, for me, is far more important than desire. Desire comes from a place of thinking, I need it, therefore the presupposition is I'm not good enough because I don't already have it. Determination is simply a case of, well, here's where I'm focused, here's where I'm going. Yeah, I don't need it, I'm just choosing to get it. And get out of the damn way because I'm moving.
And by the way, right, there's always been this kind of thing in Silicon Valley of like, you know, sort of this, I call it the failure fetish, right? Failure is good, right? Failure, you guys are probably all have been taught this, heard about this from a lot of people, like failure is a wonderful thing, failure teaches you all this stuff, and it's great to fail a lot. Like, and we don't like buy any of that. We think that's all complete nonsense. We think failure sucks. We think failure is a terribly, terribly depressing thing to go through. We think success, on the other hand, is wonderful. You know, you wouldn't think that this is something you have to actually say out loud, but we do find it to be clarifying when we point it out. And so we are strongly biased towards people who are so determined to succeed that they never give up, they never quit. And I think that is a huge part of it. And that's something we really try to look deeply for. And you know, that's the kind of thing that's not listed on a resume, right? That's something that has to be fundamentally deep in somebody's character, and you have to see it in their backgrounds.
Hey, when she was little, and you know, like kids when they're little are like, I'm going to be a singer or I'm going to be an astronaut. Did you ever for one moment believe that she would grow to be as big as she is right now?
Actually, as a child, she was very childish to begin with. Okay. As a child.
As a child, yeah.
But she was
a very childish child, actually.
But she was very determined. All right. And, you know, we could see it in her, you know, when she was 4. You know, she would stand in front of the piano and just bang on the keys. And then she wrote her first song. I used to play Money by Pink Floyd.
Right.
Right. And she wrote her first song. It was called Dollar Bill.
I love that.
And Cynthia, my wife, she still has it.
We should have that.
Yeah, well.
You know, but it was because, you know, on that record they use actual money and the register as instruments. And I remember as a kid I was so fascinated by that. So my dad played me a lot of, you know, great music that made me like really fall in love with the idea of making it.
The very minute that you decide upon something, you know that's what you want,
You know you're going to do it. All of these negatives that have been bothering you, they pick up their baggage and get out. They just move out. They can't live in a positive mind. Can you imagine a negative frame of mind and a positive frame of mind occupying the same space at the same time? Could you imagine that? No, you can't, because it can't be done. And did you know that the slightest bit of a negative mental attitude is sufficient to destroy the power of prayer? Did you know that the slightest bit of a negative mental attitude is sufficient to destroy your plan, whatever it is you're doing, carrying out your definiteness of purpose? You have to move with courage, with faith, with determination in connection with carrying out your definiteness of purpose.
Patience is for the impatient. That in fact, when you're getting started and your in-laws are making faces at you and you're not sure if you're going to be able to pay the rent and you don't know why you're living in Brooklyn to begin with and you're going to have to move back to Florida, it's easy to say, you know what? I need to go faster to pick up these scraps and pick up these scraps. And sometimes what that does is it gives you the foot up to get to the next level, but sometimes what that does is it just makes you a scrap collector. And that one of the things that we see when we look at the work of people who have put really big ideas into the world, who have built online platforms, right, is that they got there by being patiently impatient or impatiently patient, whichever way you want to juxtapose it. That if you look around at the blogs you read or the people you respect online or the organizations you want to work with, the myth of the overnight success is just that, a myth. That, you know, the much vaunted Twitter was a failure, a complete failure for 2 years. Nobody used it. And if they took the mindset of, well, if it doesn't work in 2 weeks, we got to go do something else, you never would have heard of it.
You know, where I come from, people are very passionate, hot-blooded. They want it now. I need it right away. Everyone's looking for a shortcut, but sometimes an indirect route is the quickest way to get there. Sometimes you gotta take a little longer to achieve the things you want to achieve in life. So don't be in a hurry. Be patient. Be patient. Everybody wants everything now. We live in a society where it's instant gratification. Instagram, it's this. Be patient.
So a group of really brilliant psychologists in the field of expertise research have sat down and tried to figure out how long do you have to work at something before you become really good, right? And the answer seems to be, it's an extraordinarily consistent answer in an incredible number of fields, and that is you need to have practiced, to have apprenticed for 10,000 hours before you get good. So every great classical composer, without exception, composes for at least 10 years before they write their masterwork.
Mozart, 10.
Mozart is composing at 11, but he's composing garbage at 11. I mean, he doesn't produce something great until he's 22 or 23. Concerto number 9, I think, 271. If I asked you, how long did it take you when you were doing this job before you felt comfortable and good at what you were doing?
10 years at least.
10 years, yeah. Same with me. I mean, it's an incredibly consistent finding, and it's really important because it says that we are far too impatient with people. When we assess whether someone has got what it takes to do a certain job, we always want to make that assessment after 6 months or a year, and that's ridiculous, you know? The kinds of jobs we have people do today are sufficiently complex that they require a long time to reach mastery. And what we should be doing is setting up institutions and structures that allow people to spend the time and effort to reach mastery, not judging them prematurely.
I talk to so many smart, fantastic, ambitious, idealistic, hard-working kids, and they're right out of college, they're in their entry-level jobs, and I'll ask them, how's it going? And they'll say, I think I'm gonna quit. And I'm like, why? They say to me, I'm not making an impact. I'm like, you know you've been here 8 months, right? They treat the sense of fulfillment or even love like it's a scavenger hunt, like it's something you look for. My millennial friends, they've gone through so many jobs. They're either getting fired, I mean, it was mutual. or they're quitting because they're not making an impact, or they're not finding the thing they're looking for, they're not feeling fulfilled, as if it's a scavenger hunt. Love, a job you find joy from, is not something you discover. It's not like, I found love. Here it is. I found a job I love. That's not how it works. Both of those things require hard work. You are in love because you work very hard every single day of your life to stay in love. You find a job that brings you ultimate joy because you work hard every single day to serve those around you, and you maintain that joy. It's not a discovery. But the problem is this sense of impatience. It's as if an entire generation is standing at the foot of a mountain. They know exactly what they want. They can see the summit. What they can't see is the mountain. This large, immovable object. That doesn't mean you have to do your time. That's not what I'm talking about. Take a helicopter, climb, I don't care. But there's still a mountain. Life, career fulfillment, relationships are journeys. The problem is, this entire generation has an institutionalized sense of impatience. And do they have the patience to go on the journey to maintain love, to feel fulfilled? Or do they just quit and on to the next, dump and on to the next, ghost and on to the next?
Dedicate a certain amount of time to the business. 2 hours a week, 4 hours a week, 50 hours a week. No matter what, it starts to compound after the year 1, after year 2, after year 3. If you dedicated 2 hours a week to, this new hobby or love or, business, at the end of the year, it's over 100 hours put in. Don't be in a rush. First of all, learn all the mistakes early. And then have some kind of strategy. Know that this is where you want to be after year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you have to really be honest with yourself. Is the business worth it? Is it costing too much? Because you'll know.
So, Charlie Munger likes to say that you don't make money when you buy stocks, and you don't make money when you sell stocks. You make money by waiting. And so the single biggest advantage a value investor has is not IQ, it's patience and waiting for the right pitch, and waiting for many years for the right pitch.
There's a phrase in the Bible that's become kind of an expression called "suffer fools gladly," and somehow in our modern world it got totally inverted, which is something that kind of bothers me. The original expression meant that you're constantly surrounded by fools. Half the world are fools, or whatever the percentage is. And maybe you're a bit of a fool. And what you need to do is you need to suffer. You need to be able to put up with fools and laugh at them and not take them seriously. That's what it means in the Bible, and that's the wisdom in the Bible. And then somehow it got turned around in modern times where it seems to be a virtue that you don't suffer fools gladly, that you don't put up with them, that you get angry about them, that you confront them, that you try to change them, and on and on and on and on and on. And the idea that I try and say, it's part of my chapter on social intelligence, which is I'm trying to tell you that you're not going to be a master in this world unless you know how to get along with people. We're social animals. You can't just be a nerd, a tech guy that has no contact with people. You have to learn how to be with people and be socially intelligent, and it's actually a beautiful form of intelligence. And one of the aspects is to learn how to suffer fools gladly. And I tell you what I think a fool is. A fool is somebody that doesn't have the right kind of sense of priorities in life. They magnify the little things that we should just not worry about into some huge dramatic thing. And the huge dramatic things they completely ignore. They have no sense of proportion, and we encounter them every day in our lives. And in fact, we encounter a bit of them in ourselves. We all have a foolish side. So let's all be patient with fools. If you try and change them or fight them, you're only going to waste valuable time and energy in your short life. Learn to laugh at them, learn to know it's part of the human comedy. I find that that's going to save you energy in the end. And I have stories in there of how not only do you suffer fools gladly, but you turn it around to an advantage. So I have a story in there of Daniel Everett, who's a great kind of anthropologist and linguist. And he came out with a radical new theory on linguistics, and suddenly he finds himself being attacked by everyone in the field, but they're attacking him in this ad hominem manner, as if he's a charlatan. They're not attacking his ideas, and it's driving him crazy, and now he's dealing with fools. And he decides that what he's going to do is he's going to turn it to his advantage. He's going to make sure now, from now on, that anything he presents in a book or a lecture is airtight. They would usually pinpoint one little small thing in something he said that could be inconsistent and say, therefore, your whole theory is wrong. Okay, from now on, I'm not going to make anything inconsistent. So he took the foolish aspect of these attacks and he decided it would make him stronger and it would make his ideas stronger. That's what Suffer Fools Gladly is about, and I have other examples there in the book.
That is not going to happen as quickly as you want it to happen. A lot of things are going to happen that will catch you off guard. And so therefore you've got to deal with and handle it as it comes. And not only that, but that faith and patience drives you into action. You've got to keep moving and keep plugging away. In the Far East, they have something that's called the Chinese bamboo tree. The Chinese bamboo tree takes 5 years to grow. And when they go through a process of growing it, they have to water and fertilize the ground where it is every day. And it doesn't break through the ground until the 5th year. Okay? But once it breaks through the ground, within 5 weeks, it grows 90 feet tall. Now the question is, does it grow 90 feet tall in 5 weeks or 5 years? The answer is obvious. It grows 90 feet tall in 5 years. Because at any time, had that person stopped watering and nurturing and fertilizing that dream, that bamboo tree would have died in the ground. And I can see people coming out talking to a guy out there watering and fertilizing the ground that's not showing anything. Hey, what you doing? You've been out here a long time, man. And the conversation in the neighborhood is, you growing a Chinese bamboo tree, is that right? Yeah, that's right. Well, even Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder can see ain't nothing showing. You know that's how people are going to do you? So how long have you been working on this? How long have you been working on your dream? And you have nothing to show. This is all you got to show? People are going to do that to you. And some people, ladies and gentlemen, they stop. Because they don't see instant results. It doesn't happen quickly. They stop. Oh, no. You got to keep on watering your dream. And when it began to happen, they stopped laughing. They said, look. Whoa, look here. Look how. Hey, man, you know, I know you can do it. Look, you got a job here?
Make a list of 101 things you want to achieve before you die. Now, I was sharing this with someone last night, and they said, God, that just seems like a really big task. I'm a single mom. I don't have any time. When am I going to do that? We know that one of the things about high achievers is they all have goals. Only 10% of Americans set goals every year. 10%. I can go to sales conferences, people that learn this stuff, hear it over and over. How many? 10%. We also know the same 3 to 10% control 90% of the resources of the world. So literally, without goals, you're directionless. You will be used. See, people without goals get used by other people who have them. People that don't have goals work for people who do. And so you want to be someone who picks up and gets clear about what you want. Make a list, 101 goals. I want to go to Paris. I want to, skydive. I want to bungee cord jump. I want to play the guitar. I want to learn to juggle. I want to learn 2 magic tricks for the kids. I want to go to the Olympics in Beijing. Whatever it is, make the list. And you'll see there's a lot of stuff under there that you've kind of put down that you want. And you can have anything you want.
When you don't see limits, because
Like, if you're coming from a space where you're actually ambitious, I don't think ambition is a learned behavior. I think it's a part of a person's natural character. So I'll always, no matter what I accomplish, you're going to see me back at your show saying, I think I got another idea, I can make this work. You know what I mean? Like, and you're going to be like, this guy just won't stop. But I'm telling you in advance, you know, you'll see me again. But like, you know.
I think that means that 50 just booked himself on the show again. That's what I think that means. But go ahead.
Yeah, but, you know, like, I'll always find a new goal set for myself and work towards accomplishing it, because, you know, that's what really excites me. That's what makes me happy, like, when it works. A lot of times, there's nothing around to support it. It's just me.
Dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. Goals on the road to achievement cannot be achieved without discipline and consistency. I pray that you all put your shoes way under the bed at night, so that you got to get on your knees in the morning.
I set pretty high goals for myself. They're usually higher than what I think most other people set for me. I just am I'm very driven to achieve them. I'm a goal-oriented individual, and I just am very driven to achieve those goals.
A lot of times my issue is people are not setting goals that will be something that somebody who becomes rich or could do anything. You got to be excited about working on that for 10 years. So you got to have a big enough goal that, you know, you attract the best people and you retain them and you keep them focused. And then in my experience, you don't go wrong. You know, maybe you don't hit it next year, or maybe you fail entirely and you discover something more exciting to work on with the same set of people.
I would say to continue to work hard and don't give up on your goals. And I know for me, like I said, I grew up watching my family struggle, and I grew up with a family that was successful but not born successful. And I believe with hard work and with a goal and love and positivity, then eventually we're going to be fine.
You set goals because you want to achieve certain things in your life. You know, whether it's golf for me, or you know, whether it's buying a house for someone else, or whether it's securing a good job or have a family, or whatever it is. There's many different reasons why you set goals, and I obviously have a lot of goals for my career, and I have a lot of goals for my life as well. But I think it's important to set goals because it means you don't get complacent. You know, you always have something to aim for. You can set result-oriented goals where, you know, it's a long-term goal, or you can set little short-term goals to help you get to that long-term goal. So instead of saying I want to win the Masters, I'll say what will help me win the Masters and what I need to improve to get there.
After I left university, I was working on Wall Street. I was an oil trader on Wall Street for 2 years, hated it. It was the worst experience of my entire life. I was a victim of bad culture and knew I wanted to be a creative, a great one. And when I was growing up, I realized I had one goal in life, right? And that was to get as wealthy as possible, as quickly as possible. And I realized that there are 3 ways.
Like that you're honest about it.
I keep it very real about that. There are 3 ways to do it. The first was to be an actor, an athlete. That didn't work out for me at all. The second way was to work on Wall Street, hated it. And I said, damn, I've already exhausted 2 of the 3. The last one was entrepreneurship. And the day that I came to that realization, I said, you know what, I hate Wall Street. I want to get as far away from this place, literally and figuratively, as possible. There's a school called Stanford. I think it's well known for entrepreneurship. I didn't really know what that meant. Let me apply, and fortunately I got in. And it wasn't until literally I got out in August of 2008 that I saw other 24-year-olds not only making millions of dollars, but fundamentally changing the world. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that, and kind of the rest is history at that point.
I've been terrible about setting goals all my life and trying to get there. And one of my goals, as you well know, was to make that the best store in Arkansas.
That's right.
And we got there before we left town. We became the biggest store, the most profitable Ben Franklin's store in the state of Arkansas.
I want to talk a little bit about goals on the line of how do you lose 37 pounds and write a book. I'm just going to kind of give you that as an example. For 24 years of my adult life, by choice, I weighed well over 200 pounds. I say by choice because, you see, I have never accidentally eaten anything. I mean, it's always been deliberate. And when I choose to eat too much today, I have chosen to weigh too much tomorrow. You can choose to set goals and realize your potential, or you can choose not to set them. Now, if you choose not to set them, you got to understand that the consequences are not going to be good down the road. For 24 years, I was going to lose that weight. As a matter of fact, in 24 years, I lost several thousand pounds of weight. How many of you already know exactly what I'm talking about? But it wasn't until I wrote it down, put a date on it, listed the obstacles I had to overcome, identified the people, the groups, the organizations I needed to work with, spelled out a plan of action, set that time limit in there, and identified all of the benefits to me. It was only when I did that that the goal became a reality, and I lost the weight. For 10 or 15 years, I was going to write a book. You know anybody who's going to do just a whole lot of things, folks? I was going to write a book. But it wasn't until I got busy writing the book and writing the plans first before the book ever materialized. Now, if it sounds like I'm trying to sell you on having goals, how many of you are getting close already? How many of you are becoming convinced right quick like that you need to have those goals? There's no question about it. The immortal J.C. Penney many, many years ago said, "Give me a stock clerk with a goal, and I'll give you a man who will make history. But give me a man without a goal, and I'll give you a stock clerk." Now, the interesting thing is goals do not care who has them. Let me give you a classic example of the way they work. In 1950, a war-torn, devastated Japan, a nation which had lost an incredibly high percentage of its young men. Their cities were in ruins, they had been bombed out, but in 1950, they got together, they meaning industry and government got together and set a goal. The goal was we're going to be the #1 nation in the world during the 1950s in the production of textiles. In 1959, ladies and gentlemen, they accomplished that objective. In 1960, they set another goal. We're going to be the #1 nation in the world in the production of steel. Now, when you understand there's no iron ore in Japan of any significance, there's no coal of any significance there, we're going to be the #1 nation in the world in the production of steel, it seemed like an absurd goal, and yet they reached their objectives. They had taken all of the steps. In 1970, the Japanese set another goal. They said during the 70s, we'll be the #1 nation in the world in the production of automobiles. They missed it, folks. 1 year. It took them until 1980. In 1980, they set another goal, and this time their goal was, we're going to be the #1 nation in the world in the production of computers and electronics. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, you absolutely must have those goals.
One of the big things that all startups do is they lie to themselves over and over and over. Mine's faster, mine's cheaper, mine's better, mine's this, mine's that. No, it's not. And the reason it's not is because whoever it is you're competing with, it's not like they're ignoring you. It's not like, oh my goodness, this guy just started on Shopify in the startup competition. He's doing $1 million this year. Woe is me, I might as well close up the doors. What are they doing? I'm gonna copy what they're doing. And now you've got to stay ahead. And so, you've got to be very careful as an entrepreneur to be brutally honest with yourself. And those are some of the things that you'll hear from me as a mentor, that, know what you know what you don't know, but you've got to know your business better than anybody.
I think what saved me is me being honest. And I think I somehow had the courage to do something and say something that I knew would possibly end my career. And instead of making business more important, I made my soul and my my life more important. And I think by being truthful and by being honest, that saved me. And then I was given the opportunity to do something where I could actually just be myself and people could see who I am. And if they respond to it, great, and if they don't, great. And they've responded.
The only thing that stops you from getting what you want in life is the bullshit story you tell yourself of why you can't have it. You get that? What stops you back is the story, because the story stops you from getting honest. And if you can't get honest with yourself, there's no way you can go. Imagine like this, success in sales and life, it's like a roadmap, right? You know where you want to go, and you have this perfect strategy, the straight line to get there. It's a perfect strategy. It's going to get you there every single time. But if you don't know your starting point, if you're not getting honest with where you actually are, it doesn't matter how powerful the strategy is, and it doesn't matter how powerful your goal is. I'm going to ask you to set a goal today, right? A 60-day goal. And let's say you really set this goal, and I'll show you how to do it in a brilliant way. So it's visceral. So it makes you really feel it. You see it, you sense it, you smell the goal. That's step one. I'm going to teach you the straight line, which is your strategy to get to your goal. But if you're not honest with where you are right now, your starting point, the map is worthless. There's three things that you need to know: where you are, where you want to go, and how you're going to get there. Those are the three things you must have to take advantage of any opportunity. I'm going to give you the strategy. I'm going to ask you to tell me exactly where you want to go for yourself. You got to get honest. Don't blame the boss. Don't blame the leagues. Don't blame your job. Don't blame the industry you're in. Just get honest. If you don't like your industry, find another one.
It's my philosophy, too. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change.
Is it hard to do?
Yeah, well, people don't look at themselves honestly. They don't look at themselves and point the finger at them. It's always the other guy's fault or somebody else. You should change yourself. Look at yourself. Make better of yourself.
I think that's just that weird thing of what drives you to do it, you know? It's that weird thing of why would you get out on stage and talk about things? And my favorite comedians that I've ever seen were always the most honest, like Pryor. You know, Pryor would be talking about dying and making it funny. The recent kind of embodiment of that is Chris Rock does it. Louis C.K. does it. Talks about really painful things, but he's just talking about his life. And the idea of going on stage and going, I'm going to talk about really painful things, but let's see if you relate to it. And they're complex because I think it's a survival mechanism. You know, sometimes they did it because it's the one way to get laid. Sometimes they did it because it's an outlet. It's, you know, cheaper than therapy. And in a weird way, they said it's these things that are, you know, spinning inside them that they have to talk about. And it depends on which way you do it. But, you know, well, what drives you?
An honest intention is always at the core, usually at the core of a worldly business success. I mean, I want to give people something they need. Hopefully, you're giving something they need that you approve of. You know, if you're vegan, don't have a steakhouse, you know, something like that. But it's the idea of going to work and giving people something that you believe in, and make it an honest intention, more so that you give without, you know, so much. It's not about the expectation of receiving so much. There's faith in this idea that if you put your energy into something, it will give you a return. But there's something greater about loving something enough to want to share it. And I think that's a major motivation that we all should have if we want happiness and success.
I think customers want to be talked to and not talked at. And I think a lot of companies talk at a customer, and it's very sort of glossy speak, and it doesn't seem real. And from day one, I never tried to hide that I was the girl in my apartment with the red backpack. It's like, this is who I am. And I find that people end up rooting for you and opening more doors if you're really honest early on. Some people start businesses and try to come across that they're much bigger than they are because they feel like that's the only way they're going to be taken seriously. But if you know your product's great and you know why you made it, you don't have to apologize for being out of your home or your apartment or being small.
There's this air of transparency, right? It's like the great entrepreneurs that I love the most is like, they'll be honest about everything and they'll tell you exactly how it is, good or bad, and we'll just put a stake in the ground on an opinion but not drive it home. And it's like, that's the stuff I respect the most.
Work hard. You're going to need some luck, but the harder you work, the luckier you get. And if it doesn't work out, that's not the end of the world. I just don't have anything in common with people that sit there and say, oh my God, it was terrible. It was terrible. It's water over the dam, under the bridge. Get on with it and start another business the next day or another career. And be honest, look in a mirror and say, why didn't it work out? Well, it wasn't the skill set, or I didn't have the temperament for it, or I was in the wrong place, wrong time. Maybe I can afford to do it again, maybe I can't. But people aren't honest with themselves. What I've always done is I've taken a yellow pad, I draw a line down the middle, write out the pros on one side, the cons on another, in a sense that if I let you see it, you wouldn't laugh at me. And then when I get done, I just rip it up and throw it away, because I've worked out in my mind what is real and what isn't, and what I can present to people and what I can't.